Welcome to the Common Cool podcast,
where we discuss the power of addiction,
the art of suffering,
and the joy of freedom.
Hello, welcome to the Common Cool podcast. My name is Miguel.
And I'm Jeff.
Today we have a guest named Russ Anderson. It's a very special guest because it's allowing me to give back something that has helped me quite a bit in my personal journey. I am an addict in recovery, and one of the things that I've learned is that one of the reasons that I particularly turned into addiction is because I suffered. It was due to suffering. And it was not so much suffering, but it was lack to the acceptance suffering. The thing we addicts avoid pain and challenge at all cost. So today we brought Rusty to talk about what we like to call the art of suffering. It's this idea that if we learn how to suffer, we suffer a little bit less. And at a personal level, meditation has helped me a lot in that journey. So we would like to give this tool to you. Want to show you how to use this tool of meditation to address suffering. I met Rusty through my meditation mentor, Jordan, who you've met in one of our episodes. He was our second guest, I believe, in the podcast, second or third.
Yeah.
And Rusty and Jordan teach the TWIM meditation practice. This practice has been one of the most game-changing tools in my life. So that's why we're bringing you Rusty today. So on to Rusty.
Well, thanks very much for having me. Looking forward to the discussion.
Excellent. So let's start with an initial question, and we'll go from there. So Rusty, what is TWIM? How did you get started with TWIM, and what was your particular motivation to seek out to meditation?
Sure. So, like many folks that get into meditation, I came to the meditative path from a desire to solve a problem. I had a health issue at a young age. I'd suffered a heart attack, and I was a very stressed out Silicon Valley entrepreneur, battling with the challenges of startup life in San Francisco. And my cardiologist said, "You are incredibly stressed out, one of the most stressed out young men I've ever met, and you need to get into meditation." And so my exposure to TWIM was somewhat interesting. We literally picked a meditation retreat and off I went. The retreat was held by an organization called Dharma Sukha, which translated means happy teachings. And you'll see how the thread of happiness and less suffering is weaved into this conversation today. But off I went, and while I was very skeptical initially, I stuck with it. It was a 10-day silent retreat and made sufficient progress to start exploring TWIM more fully. And so that's how my journey began. In terms of the theme today, which is suffering and addiction and things like that, I think in preparing my thoughts for today, I realized that addictions come in many forms. Obviously, there's the classic addiction, substance abuse, gambling, and all of these things, which can be quite debilitating. But there's also the more fundamental level of addiction, which is this belief that you need something more to be happy. And in that sense, TWIM or meditation is a practice that exposes you or allows you to see that you have many things to be happy about, and it tones down or regulates the need for additional components. So that's one of the themes that I'd like to explore with both of you today is letting go of the construct that more is needed. I think when we're mindful and in a good headspace, there's a lot in our current lives. There's a lot in the human experience to be happy and grateful about already. And part of TWIM is essentially relaxing the mind to strip away a lot of this behavioral programming to see that there's opportunities to be fundamentally happy already. So I guess that's a good way to frame the conversation. And happy to tell you a little more about TWIM.
Sure. I got a question. So your cardiologist recommended you do medication.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because a lot of times you see like medications and different things, but you must have had a pretty progressive cardiologist.
Well,
is it something that you're already doing?
No, I wasn't actively meditating. I live in San Francisco in the Bay Area. They're relatively progressive, and a lot of the literature around meditation suggests there's significant and lasting benefits in terms of physical relaxation from meditation. So yes, he is a great doctor, open to all sorts of solutions, and off I went.
Yeah, we need more of those. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the different kinds of addictions, and I think for that perspective, addiction is just a lot more pervasive in our world that we all realize, because I think when we hear the word addiction, we immediately go to drug addiction, alcoholism, etc. And I think it's a little bit more nuanced in that. I think as human beings, we tend to cling. We just cling on the ideas of what we think should be. And when reality doesn't match those ideas, we cling to those ideas, and it's really hard to let go.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If we examine a lot of our behaviors, we're addicted to many things. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative, but many of us are addicted to affirmation, or we're addicted to the concept that we need more. We need to if I make more money, I'll be happier. We're addicted to the sense of control. I need to do this in order to get that. And all of those kinds of things. And through meditation, it's possible to tease those apart a little bit and to essentially relinquish this concept that I need to do more, or I need more in order to be happier. And that's one of the fruits of this practice. Is there's a lot of effort in recognizing that there's a lot to be happy about already. And we don't necessarily need to augment our lives with more money or more alcohol or all of these other things. There are ways to amplify this fundamental sense of goodwill and good feelings that we innately have as humans.
And so we've talked a little bit about TWIM. So what is TWIM exactly? There are a lot of different meditation practices, right? And can you just tell us a little bit more about TWIM, how it works, how is it different than other practices? What does that look like?
Sure, happy to. So TWIM stands for Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation. And as the name suggests, it is a practice that focuses on developing tranquility. So as we go through the meditation exercise, we'll understand that tranquility is the cornerstone of the practice. Tranquility being physical relaxation and mental relaxation, ease and relaxation, and so forth. And the idea is that as we meditate, mind will relax and we'll start to see how we create our human experience. And that's the wisdom part, is understanding how cause and effect and our mental processes build our human experiences. And then the hope is that the insight components is once we understand how our programming, so to speak, we can be happier and freer. So that the tranquility refers to developing ease and relaxation. The wisdom refers to improving mindfulness, so we can observe how our mind is creating the human experience, and the insights are how we change our belief systems in order to be happier. And so in the context of addiction, one of the benefits could be that we realize and we start to understand that the cost and benefit of addiction is not what we thought it was. That extra drink or these things that we crave actually don't result in happiness. And so the process is fundamentally around tranquility. It's around relaxation. But the purpose is to create these insights that free us, not only from addiction, but from many concepts that society or programming and so forth has suggested it'll make us happier when in fact it won't. I guess one of the key insights is things only last so long. You have that drink, and of course it only lasts so long. You have this fantastic meal, and it comes and it goes. You're aging all the time and things like that. And so TWIM allows you to understand the impermanence of essentially the human condition, and in some ways it can free us. So TWIM is obviously my practice. There are many other practices, but it's a complete system, complete in the sense that it has a meditative framework. This is how you meditate. It has a conceptual framework. When you meditate, this is the goal, and this is how you can get stuck, and these are the things that you need to change. But most importantly, it has an objective, and that objective is freeing us so that we can be happy. It was founded by an American monk who practiced in the Thai forest tradition. His name is Bhante Villaramsi. He's unfortunately passed away. But what he did is he started teaching retreats in around 1985, and over a period of 25 to 30 years of teaching literally thousands and thousands of students, he came up with this consolidated system that has many of these components. And so it's focused on happiness. It's focused on being mindful of smiling and generating goodwill or metta practice for those who are more familiar with traditional meditation constructs. It's based on the suttas. The suttas are the ancient texts, much like the Christianity has the Bible, the Buddhists have the suttas, and it's focused on reading the suttas from a perspective of understanding what the Buddha taught from a meditation perspective. And in some sense, the TWIM community are considered fundamentalists. They're very focused on the suttas and things like that. But the important components of the system is that it has meditation techniques, two main ones. The first is forgiveness meditation, where there's this process of forgiving yourself for, doing the things you have, for your addiction and things like that, which can be profoundly beneficial. And the second meditation technique is what's known as the 6 R's, which is this process of as you start to identify craving, which in obviously addicts, and all of us are addicts, we have this process to let it go. It's quite progressive in that it's focused on what's known as the jhanas, which are these levels of meditative progress. Traditionally, there are about 8 of them. And the goal is to lead to the modification of belief systems so that we can be happier. So it's a paint by numbers framework in the sense that if you do this, then do that. If this doesn't happen, do this. And it's actually been very successful in terms of the results it gives to its students. And so it has a small but very committed following who are really transforming the way they look at the world. I'd say from an addiction perspective, the biggest benefit is that it can be done during daily life. So the 6R loop, which is this process of recognizing tension, releasing the tension mentally, relaxing physically, re-smiling, and then gently returning, it can be used when you're doing a spreadsheet, you're frustrated in traffic, or you're feeling the pangs of addiction. And that's why I feel that this methodology might be of interest to this audience.
Excellent. Thank you for that thorough explanation of TWIM. I think for me, 6 R's have been really game-changing. Also gave me a bit of a different methodology to meditate on a daily basis. I think there's a lot of different approaches, and the most common ones are the more mantra-oriented sort of practices and whatnot. And for me, just the 6 R's resonated a lot more. It also because it felt like you just said, the 6 R's is something that I can apply even in the middle of a business meeting, for instance.
Exactly.
Right? Once you start practicing it every day, you build the muscle, and now you can put it in play. You can put it in place at any point of your life.
Exactly. So there's this perception that meditation is what you do when you sit on a cushion and so forth. But meditation is really training the mind, and it's practice for what happens in real life. There isn't a huge amount of value just sitting on a cushion, for 30 minutes, and for the other 23 and a half hours in the day you struggle. What tends to happen in using the 6 R's is they start to become applicable in your daily life. So when you start feeling the frustration of, your child screaming in the back seat, you can do a few of these 6R loops to bring ease and relaxation into the situation, so you can address these life challenges skillfully. And one of the opportunities is, from an addiction perspective, is as we start having these addictive thoughts, I need this, I need that, to apply the 6 R's and somewhat diffuse that mental tension that drives behavior.
And so let's connect that a little bit with this idea of art of suffering. So let's maybe start with, what is suffering really in the human experience? What is the art of suffering? How can meditation help?
Sure. So as with all meditative concepts, there's different perspectives and interpretation, and suffering is a very loaded term. When one thinks of suffering, one thinks of physical pain, anguish. I'm really suffering. This hurts kind of construct. But in this practice, it's more around disappointment. Suffering is what happens when you are unable to control your environment or your actions, that leads to the sense of disappointment. And if defined in that way, and there's many definitions, and I'm not suggesting this is the only one or the right one, suffering is central to meditation and Buddhism, in the sense that Buddhism is based on what's known as the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths basically say that disappointment is weaved into the human experience, and this disappointment arises because of our inability to control certain scenarios. And when we try to control these scenarios and fail, we become disappointed. And there's a way to essentially address this disappointment, and that way is to modify our expectations. So traditionally, the Four Noble Truths are life as disappointment. The source of disappointment is craving, or the sense of expectation. By letting go of the craving, and that's what this practice does, it's the relaxation of this wanting or this desire to control outcomes, we can become happier. So that's essentially the fundamental framework which guides the 6R loop. Every time we start feeling the sense of desire to control, craving, and so forth, we go through this process of mentally relaxing the body, releasing the mind, bringing up a sense of joy through a smile. And by repeating that, we're able to essentially dissolve or tone down the sense of disappointment, the sense of things should be different than they actually are.
How would you see it be? Can you compare it to like therapy, like doing this meditation practice? Like if you had to choose one, like what do you see as the differences from therapy to? There's obviously the physical part of it. In therapy, you're not relaxed, you're not in a meditative state.
Well, obviously there's many forms of therapy, but I imagine you're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy. But the goal is kind of the same, in that therapy is a discussion really that allows you to have insights which cause you to change your belief systems, which ultimately cause you to change your behavior. And meditation is a similar journey. You start realizing certain truths, as it were, about behavior, and then you change your view or your belief system, and you end up with better outcomes. So, for example, very simply, you could have a belief that in social situations you need to have a drink because it's going to improve the experience. But your therapist may talk you through the total sort of cost-benefit analysis of having these drinks. And over time, you realize drinking in social situation, it leads to problems and so forth. And you choose not to drink because your cost-benefit analysis engine has been modified. And meditation does the same thing. I don't see meditation and therapy as being replacements for each other. I actually think that there's a mistaken impression that meditation itself can fix everything. I think meditation, when paired with therapy, can be tremendously beneficial, but they're solving somewhat different problems, and they can be very complementary. But there's always the risk of you sitting down and meditating, but not really coming to the most important conclusion or termination, which is, I need to change my behavior if I expect to get better outcomes.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you. That idea, like therapy always just seems very, and I do it, all week long. I do therapy with people and a lot of cognitive behavioral stuff, but it always just seems very up here. Everything is very here. And then I'll meet with someone the next week and we'll have to kind of go over some things again. And it's really hard to get it from here to because I think the learning gets done down here, like when you really feel it.
Sure. I think one of the challenges with therapy is we are modifying belief structures, and having 45 minutes of therapy once a week, it doesn't have the dosage that we need. Whereas with meditation, you're doing it every single day, and often several times a day, doing this little 6-hour loop. I'm feeling this degree of anxiety and what have you. And so I think if you could pair these two methodologies, that would be very, very beneficial, and that therapy is going to lay out the high level framework and the concepts, as it were, but you need to practice these things quite throughout the day and so forth in order for them to be integrated and for there to be long-term change. So I see meditation and therapy as two very complementary modalities, but I don't think one can actually replace the other. And if you look at the literature and you speak to folks, most of them have benefited by having a meditation plus therapy or meditation plus other sort of more standard modalities.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Great point on that. Like they're doing it more often. Like they remind that consistent practice where it's 45 minutes. Yeah, you're
sure.
Right. It doesn't, unless you practice it, unless you take what a therapist says and practice it every day. But like a lot of times it's just more like, oh, this is what my therapist told me to do right now. And then you're already working you're not working kind of proactively. Like you're like, okay, but if you were to get up and meditate in the morning, it can kind of refreshes it and moves you a little bit further forward.
Yeah. So as we are reprogramming our sort of mental modules, so to speak, these desires and these concepts and these belief systems are very, very deeply ingrained. And so it needs to be this continual effort of reminding yourself to relax, reminding yourself that it's not the end of the world. And one of the benefits of TWIM is that it makes that process pleasant. In fact, potentially addictive, because once you start realizing that this did actually help in a given moment, there's the desire to try it more and more frequently. And over time, students start 6Ring, as we say, much more frequently. Whenever they encounter frustration or tensions or concerns, they do these little loops where they recognize that they're tense, they release the mind, they relax the body, they bring up the sense of goodwill by a small smile, and they just repeat that until the challenge of the moment passes.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, one of the things that I have found to be very amazing is we're talking about complementing meditation with therapy. So I've been doing therapy for a long time, probably since 2016. And so I've had different therapists depending on the stage of my life, but it's always been weekly therapy. And what I found is that at some point I was way too identified with aspects of myself. Like I had too many identity attachments, which would lead me to drive the conversation with my therapist in very self-serving ways. And I didn't realize that. And it was through meditation that I started letting go of some of my identity attachments. And slowly, it was a very, very slow progression, but slowly over time, I started seeing, oh, wait, I think I'm not driving my therapy in the best way possible. So meditation actually made my therapy sessions much more effective because they became more honest, more true, more transparent, more concise even. Some fact.
Sure, there's a lot of value in that comment. As part of meditation, we start to examine this concept of self, who we are, and we start to realize that we change moment by moment, but we believe that we have this consistent decision-making apparatus, which is always going to do, make a given decision and a given outcome. But we start to notice that the moment and the circumstances and all these sort of factors leading up into a decision, they change. And so our responses as human beings changes as well. And so meditation starts chipping away at the idea that this is the way I am, and more towards the concept that this is the way I'm behaving in this moment, given all this stimuli, given all these precedents, given everything that's gone before. And that can be somewhat freeing in the sense that we start to hold ourselves less accountable. Addicts suffer from a tremendous sense of guilt and so forth. And just understanding that there's a lot that's gone into you having too many drinks last night, and there's a lot that's gone into that you didn't control, that's gone into your addiction, generally speaking.
Definitely. One thing that you were saying earlier when we talk about suffering, it resonated from this perspective. I think that in my personal situation, I was always sort of having a fantasy in my head, like this simulation of the world, this mental model in my head of what should be, what's going to be most beneficial for me, what are my biggest desires, ambitions, and like that mental model was always playing. And the problem is that most of the time, reality didn't manifest like the mental model. So I was constantly, quote, suffering. That was disappointed, right? Like even though I was making money, I was not making as much as I wanted to, even though I had a pretty great life. It was just not enough in every way, not because it wasn't enough, it's because it didn't match the mental model. So therefore, I was constantly suffering, but there was no real suffering per se. The suffering was mainly in my head.
Yeah. So humans are really, really, really complex. We're complex beings, and the reality is there's never going to be enough. And the reason is things change. And so, as we sit down and we have this amazing meal, that meal is not going to make us satiated permanently. And this is the concept of impermanence. It'll satisfy us now, but then we are constantly on this hedonic treadmill. We need to have another meal. We need to have additional sort of ego wins and so forth. And so we are constantly sort of battling with the universe. We're trying to really control it versus realize that it's very dynamic, changing all the time, and we need to flow with things a little more and not struggle or fight against the direction of where we're headed.
Yeah, that idea of like, we had an episode just recently, and the gentleman that was on the podcast was in the criminal justice system, and he was in a behavioral modification program where if they did something out of line with the community. He was required to sit in front of a wall, about 6 inches from a wall, and stare at a wall for up to for days. They'd pull him off, they'd go to the bathroom, they'd pull him off so he could eat. And we compared that a little bit to this idea of spending time with yourself. A lot of people, think about meditation, or just the idea of spending time in your own thoughts is suffering to some people. The idea of it is there's a part of that, having that relationship you have with yourself is so damaged that you can't spend any time with yourself.
Yes, there's a lot in that comment, actually. Part of TWIM and part of, in fact, most meditation methodologies is, as you start to relax the mind, and as mind settles and the clutter sort of subsides, you can start to see that there are tremendously hurtful and harmful things that you're telling yourself all the time. I'm not good enough. I'm an addict. I've failed in this way. I've failed in that way. And you have a tendency to replay this negative movie over in your mind, which is a story of inadequacy, failure, all of these things. And that's not constructive. Yes, one needs to recognize that a mistake has been made, but the most important thing is, how do I fix it? And if we get too involved in I've made a mistake, there isn't space to go to the next or more important juncture, which is, I've made a mistake. This is what caused it. This is my intention to change, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. And so part of TWIM and part of the meditative process is actually the idea of forgiveness. And you're not forgiving your actions or the consequences and so forth. The phrase goes, I forgive myself for not understanding. And there's a lot in that, but I forgive myself for not understanding that my behavior would lead to these outcomes. And a big part of, I think, addiction recovery and therapy is understanding that a lot of things that happen are somewhat beyond your control. And so you can de-escalate this sense of blame and open up space for this sense of learning, healing, and recovering.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that you help guide people through that forgiveness meditation?
The process actually happens by itself, but a core part of understanding who we are and where we are is realizing that we are not operating in isolation. There's a whole big old universe out there, and it's sending us or has delivered many components that are leading into this experience. And so part of the understanding is realizing that there are limits to what I can control. I've inherited certain considerations which were beyond my control, and so I need to be realistic in terms of my boundaries, control things, and things of that nature. And so, in some ways, meditation is really the study of cause and effect. This happened, I reacted this way, and it's the goal, as I indicated to you, is changing these belief systems so when those circumstances arise, we choose the more skillful path versus the less skillful one. Skillful being defined as what's going to lead to more happiness.
Cool. Yeah.
One question for you that I think it could be telling for people. So I've personally gotten some very specific gifts from meditation, so I can enumerate things, how my life has changed in specific ways. What are some of the gifts that meditation has given you? Some very specific things that you can share with people.
Sure. So, and I'm thrilled that TWIM has been beneficial to you, and it's been beneficial to a lot of people. But meditation has many benefits. I guess the obvious ones are the physical benefits of being more relaxed. So the sense of tranquility, lowered heart rate, less terminal stress, less anxiety, all of those things. But the mental benefits, the deeper ones at least, are about changing one's perspectives, changing your belief systems, changing the way you think about yourself, think about others, and so forth. And that's really what the meditation is about. It's understanding how this process of how mind creates experience and how complex that is, and how the sense of disappointment is weaved into our experiences all the time. And by letting go of that desire to control things that perhaps we cannot control, will reduce this suffering or this disappointment. Now, that's not an excuse not to have good intention. The disappointment arises when you try to change something that you can't, and you become disappointed. Obviously, if there are skillful opportunities for you to do the right thing, then obviously you would do that. But you can't do better than your best in that moment. And it's meditation has aspects of exposing that and unraveling that, so you can see it and relax and become somewhat happier or freer.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like one of the things that I felt in the last few years is there's been a true sort of reconditioning the mind in a much accelerated, because I meditate, I've seen that happen in a much more accelerated way than anything else that I've tried. Just I can tell that when I'm in certain situations where I would react, I just don't react anymore, or maybe what happens is that I can catch my nervous system starting to react, but I'm sort of aware that it's happening, so I can slow down a little bit more and then pause.
Sure. Yes. So and I'm pleased to hear that. At a macro level, meditation is really training the mind. So anytime you're training the mind, you're in some sense meditating. And one of the goals of meditation is to train the mind to be more skillful in our decisions, to train the mind to identify opportunities for gratitude and things like that. And so meditation itself is really designed to train the mind and on a multitude of levels that are going to result in more skillful decisions, better personal outcomes, and so forth.
There's so much going on. Yeah, when you say like calming your body, calming your mind, changing your thinking, and there's this part of me that will, I'm in recovery, but it still drives me crazy. Like I'm always, like you said, like it's never enough. Like, always looking for that, like to latch onto something to look forward to in the future, because that gets my dopamine working in my head. I'm always kind of moving. And sometimes, like it's like I can't imagine what it would be like not to have that.
Sure. So human experience happens really quickly. And before we know it, we've tipped into anger, frustration. All of these things happen. But generally, being more relaxed and having this more distant perspective allows you to calm things down to the degree that hopefully you have an opportunity to really reevaluate things. And so when I said that meditation is very much related to cause and effect, you're creating opportunities for you to look at the causes, look at the effects, and to make wiser and more skillful choices.
One of the things that I hear a lot with friends, or even in the fellowships that I'm part of, it's all step fellowships that I'm part of, will say, so people are a little resistant to meditation, and when you ask them why, the response is very similar all the time. They just say, I can't meditate. I just can't do it. So what advice do you have for people that are thinking that way? I just can't do it. Meditation is not for me because I can't clear my mind. I just can't do it.
Sure. So I think the problem starts with a misrepresentation of what meditation is. So when I speak to many students, they say, I can't meditate. And when you ask them, well, what are you failing to do? They're saying, oh, I can't get my mind completely still and at peace. And when I meditate, thoughts come up and things like that. And the reality is that that is going to happen. The goal of meditation is not to remove thoughts or this modality of meditation. It's to examine the thought. And so obviously, if you're trying to do something that's almost impossible, you're going to get frustrated. I've meditated a lot and have had exposure to, some of the most gifted meditators in the world. And if you ask them, what is happening when you meditate? It's not the cessation of thoughts. The thoughts are still coming up. It's just, and all of these things. It's how you relate to the thought. And so I think fundamentally people's frustration with meditation is that they are setting themselves up for failure because they think that the goal of meditation is to completely eradicate all thoughts from mind, and that's not going to happen. And so I think a lot of the issues around beginner meditations is this misguided belief that meditation is having this extremely tranquil, cool, pure, sort of collected mind. And of course, when that doesn't happen, they become disappointed. If you consider meditation to be more broadly training the mind to be happy, it creates the space for people to start seeing that they can succeed. And so I think one of the key things about meditation is to not have unrealistic expectations from the get-go, not to think that the goal or the objective is to make mind completely blank, still, calm. That doesn't happen. There's an entire journey that one needs to go through in order to get there. So I like to think of meditation as a journey of relaxation, and there's degrees of relaxation. And so when we start to meditate, one of the things we want to do with students is say, do you feel more relaxed? Did you get benefit from that? And so the cost-benefit analysis for meditation becomes clearer, and they're going to do it more and more. But I think what you say is absolutely true, that because of the misunderstanding of what meditation is, it leads to frustration and then abandonment, and then unfortunately, this loop of disappointment, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce the sense of dissatisfaction, and some meditation students actually find meditation creates suffering, and that's unfortunate.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Hopefully that'll help people sort of understand that meditation is slightly different than how we think of it. I certainly thought about it in the very wrong way before I started studying with Jordan. I remember in my initial stages, I would tell Jordan, "Oh man, it's just I can't push these thoughts away." Like, well, that's a problem. You shouldn't try to push them. Don't push anything. In fact, don't try to do anything at all, because you're basically controlling your meditation. So I'm such a controlling person that I was trying to control the meditation experience. It's like, just let it go.
Sure.
Thought, let it go.
Yeah, I mean, we've all heard of the experience. Don't think of pink elephants. The immediate thing you think about is a pink elephant, and the desire to kind of push a thought away or control that thought, it energizes it, and that thought becomes more prominent. And so the very act of trying to force the thought out, it empowers it rather. And what the 6R process does is there's a sequence you go through where you just relax your body, release your mind, and soften your mind, bring up a smile, and then return. And there's this replacement of these unpleasant thoughts with this sense of ease, relaxation, and joy. And that's actually how you one of the ways you can get to a calmer mind is this replacement of thoughts rather than the forcing of thoughts out into this vacuum that is going to remain there for all time.
Yeah. I love that. It's more of a transformation of
Exactly.
thought. There was another gentleman from TWIM, I believe his name is Adam, and got to spend some time with him 2 weeks ago. And he said something that I've never heard before that was super helpful. I was sharing that my mind is very busy. Sometimes I have these big to-do lists where I'm trying to meditate. And he said, so I've never heard before. He said, when that happens, let the thoughts go, but also be grateful to your mind. Give gratitude to your mind. Tell your mind, you know what? Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Thank you for bringing these thoughts to keep me safe, and then let them go. I thought that was really cool because I'm a little bit abusive with my mind. When it's too busy, I think, why is this mind so busy? And I get ranty about it after a meditation that didn't go very well. So that was really helpful to see it with gratitude.
Yeah. So Adam, great guy. I really enjoy him. Not all thoughts are bad, obviously. The key is to understand which are the thoughts that we should act upon, which require what thoughts are indicative of a challenge that we need to address, and what is essentially our default mode network just throwing up a bunch of sort of scenarios that we're modeling out. And so one of the benefits of meditation is that the important thoughts kind of come to the surface. And so we want to understand what's important, and we want to de-escalate the things that aren't important. And so what one tends to find is that as you meditate, the important things do come up. There are things that you need to do. You need to address certain challenges in your relationship. You need to pay the rent. You need to do all of these things. And those will become very, very clear, but you'll have this sense of clarity around why I need to do it and so forth. And a lot of the other thoughts, which is really this mental modeling, will fade into the background. And so ideally, you want the sense of clarity that these are the important things. This is reality. These are the things that I must do. And if I don't do them, these will be the consequences. And a lot of the less sort of meaningful or thoughts will sort of fade into the background. And so that's one of the objectives of meditation, is to make us more skillful, wiser, to be confronting reality in the true sense versus all these simulations and things that we tend to worry about that never come to pass.
Right. So our first guest in the podcast, a neuroscientist named Evian Gordon, he always talks about the idea of from knowing to doing. So not from knowing to doing. Maybe try it out. Maybe we've been talking meditation. Maybe you can walk us through a guided meditation. Do a few minutes.
Sure. So happy to. So let's remember that the goal here is to replace unwholesome tension with wholesome thoughts, to relax ourselves and replace it with essentially the sense of contentment, joy, gratitude, and so forth. And so the process has 6 components. There's 6 steps to it. The first essentially is to rest. We're going to rest our minds on a specific object of meditation, and for many, gratitude is a good place to start. As we notice or recognize is the second step, that mind is wandered or moved off the sense of gratitude, we'll recognize it, we'll release, which is the third step. Step 3 is release, and we just do that by softening our eyes, softening essentially the mental tension. We'll relax our body, and we'll do that very deliberately. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, relax your hands, relax your feet. We'll bring up a smile, a slight little Buddhist smile at the corner of the mouth, and that triggers a whole bunch of nervous system activities which are positive, and then you will return. And so the meditative process is resting, recognizing, releasing, relaxing, re-smiling, and returning to rest again. And so that's essentially what the 6 R's are. Resting on a sense of gratitude, recognizing as mind moves, and that's actually what mindfulness is. Releasing mind, relaxing body, re-smiling, and gently returning. And you can see how you can repeat this in your daily lives. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You recognize that there's tension. You release by softening the mind. You relax the body and do that deliberately. We hold a lot of tension in the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Bring up a re-smile, and then gently return so that you can repeat this.
Okay, should we do a few minutes of it? Should we do it?
Yeah, sure. So I remember the goal is ease and relaxation, mental ease and physical relaxation. And so let's find the position where we're most comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, you should move to become comfortable. So we're starting now, closing our eyes and starting to just be comfortable. And the first, we want to rest our minds on a sense of gratitude, resting our minds on this sense of warmth or appreciation, or this just sense of contentment, typically in the center of our chests. Recognizing that it's not there or mind is moved. Releasing our minds, and so softening our eyes, not pushing, just softening, relaxing our bodies. And here there's a real opportunity. So relax the eyes, make them droopy, relax the jaw, there's a lot of tension there. Relax the shoulders, really open the shoulders, relax, everything's okay. Relax the hands, let them be heavy. Relax the feet, so you're sinking down into that sense of relaxation. Now we want to re-smile, just bring up this little Buddha smile. That's re-smiling. And then let's very gently return to rest on the sense of warmth, gratitude in our chest. As mind starts to wander, we'll recognize it. We'll release, soften the eyes, soften that tension behind the eyes. Relax the body. Let go of any tension in the mouth, in the jaw. Relax the tongue. Relax the shoulders. Relax the hands. Relax the feet. Feel that sense of opening. Let go. Let the tension sort of drain out. Re-smile. And then gently return to rest on our object of meditation, which is this sense of gratitude in our chest. And let's just sit there for a while. Recognize mind has wandered. Release the mind, soften the eyes, soften that mental tension. Relax the body, let go of the jaw, the shoulders, heavy hands, heavy feet. Re-smile, pulling that sense of goodwill. Gently returning to rest on the sense of gratitude. It's all about mental ease, physical relaxation, ease and relaxation. Recognizing tension, releasing the eyes, softening the eyes, relaxing the body, relax the shoulders, relax heavy hands, heavy feet, opening the body, re-smiling, gently returning. Step one, which is resting on the sense of gratitude or warmth in our chest. Recognize tension. Release the mind. Relax the body. Wherever there's tension, just open it up. Relax the shoulders. Relax the hands. Heavy feet. Re-smile. And gently return to rest on our object of meditation, which is the sense of gratitude in our chest. So we want to go deeper. Let's relax, ease and relaxation. Mental ease, physical relaxation. The steps are resting on the object of meditation, recognizing tension, mentally releasing that tension, physically relaxing the body, re-smiling, and gently returning to rest on the object of meditation again. This ever-deepening loop that's replacing mental tension, struggle with this sense of mental ease and physical relaxation. And we can do this at any time we feel tension. Recognize the tension, mentally release the tension, physically relax the body, re-smile, and gently return. Resting on the sense of gratitude, recognizing any tension, mentally release the tension, really let go now. Soften the mind, soften the eyes. Relax the jaw, relax the shoulders, heavy hands, heavy feet. Re-smile and gently return. So this is the reward. We should be noticing that we're much more relaxed. And that is the first benefit. As we get more and more relaxed, more physically relaxed, that's one of the fruits of the practice. And we hopefully will keep us coming back. Doesn't matter what's going on in mind. The goal is just to recognize tension, just looking for that edge of tension, releasing the eyes, softening the eyes, relax the body, really relax the body, sink down, re-smile, and gently return to rest. Okay. Let's go through one more. Rest on the sense of gratitude, this feeling of contentment. Recognize any tension. Release the mind, soften the eyes. Relax the body. No tension in jaw. Relax the shoulders. Relax the hands. Relax the feet. And gently re-smile and return. Okay, so do a lot of those, and it's quite likely you'll be more relaxed and ideally happier, but just check in and see, was there a reaction there? Are you more relaxed? Has heart rate gone down? And that's the initial sort of benefit of the practice that hopefully then can keep us coming back, and we can go further and further into this meditative journey.
Definitely.
Thank you. Yeah,
Great.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. That's very pleasant. As we just did a mini practice, and I felt really good afterwards. Makes me want to share with people that, meditation practice shouldn't feel like a chore that you have to do. It's so enjoyable that it's almost, you can't wait to do it, because you feel just so good while you're doing it.
Absolutely. We're training ourselves to be happy and relaxed. And so if there's struggle in the training, we're really training ourselves to struggle. And so let's know that it's all about mental ease and physical relaxation. Those are the gateways to a much deeper and richer meditation practice. So whatever's going on, just recognize it, release, relax. And some students have been really surprised at how much they've enjoyed the meditation and how profound it's been and how quickly the results can come versus this years and years of trying to make mind blank work, which is almost impossible.
Right.
No. Do you find that most people I think that most people have the answers, like the whole, Socratic method. Like if you provide an environment for your mind to kind of really ponder the answers are there.
Yes, then there's a deeper question in there. If you want to make long-term behavioral changes like we do, you have to realize it for yourself. And so a therapist might say, don't do this or don't do that or don't do the other. That's going to have a relatively small benefit versus you yourself recognizing that these are the pros and the cons and mentally changing your mind to go in a different direction. So I actually think it's deeper than that. I don't think other people can change you. You have to do it for yourself. They can guide you, they can help you, but the true change is when we realize for ourselves that there are alternative paths and this is not the path we want to go down.
For sure. Yeah. I spend most of my day in therapy with people, trying to convince them to suffer. You have to changes about suffering a little bit. And I always refer to this dreaded state. A lot of us work to stay out of this dreaded state, excruciating guilt or shame. And then I try to say like you said, it's only temporary. Sure. Yeah, I can convince a person that I have a client now who has a daughter who's 16 and she is running the house and he's a people pleaser. And so I can convince him over and over again, this will be good for you. This will be good for her. Win-win. Everyone wins here. It's just it's excruciating. You can't do that.
So what we recognize can change. So now initially we were trying to recognize tension, but we'll start recognizing shame. Oh, there's shame. That's really, or there's guilt, or there's greed, or there's disappointment, or there's all of these things. And so you start releasing a lot of these negative mental attributes and replacing them with the sense of upliftment, shall we say. And that's what meditation does, is it allows you to see what's in your mind, see what's good or bad, and start chipping away at the things that ideally are causing you to be less happy.
For sure.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rusty. This has been a great episode. I appreciate your time and appreciate the guided meditation. Hoping that a lot of people get to see this and get inspired and try to incorporate meditation
I
in
hope
their
so
lives.
too. Thank you, Miguel, and thank you very much. I hope you have a good day.
Thank
Take care.
you as well. Bye-bye.